Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and before we get started I just want to say that I am making a Q&A video pretty soon. So if you have any questions for me, leave them down below or in the community tab or on my Discord server. Now any of this would be much appreciated, and now let's get on to my predictions. In the Western Conference in round 1, I have Winnipeg versus Colorado, and I think that the Jets will be overwhelmed by the deep talent on the Avalanche. They outmatch the Jets on almost every situation, and the Jets also lack defensive talent. And Hellebuck needs to play like he did this season if the Jets have a chance at winning in the playoffs. And they have a great first line, but I don't think that will be enough to solve the Avalanche. So I predict Colorado wins this in 6 games. Moving on, Vancouver versus St. Louis, and I think that this series will be much closer than what most people might predict. The Canucks and Blues, although very far apart on the points department, the Canucks actually match up very well against the Blues statistically all over the ice. And they have a young and fast team, and I think that they will play well, especially if their top line goes on fire. But I think that the Blues, with more experience, goaltending, and depth, will win this in a hard-fought 7-game series. Moving on, I have Nashville versus Vegas, and I think that this will be a pretty lopsided series. The Predators had an awful year statistically in regards to their talent. They were also very low scoring and weren't great defensively either. They also had pretty bad goaltending, so that didn't help them. And if they play like they did this year, they are in a very tough spot. The Golden Knights, on the other hand, outmatch them. They have a great first line, and I think that they'll make very quick work of Nashville. I'm predicting Vegas in 5 games. Next is the Oilers versus the Dallas Stars. Both teams are polar opposites here, as the Oilers are pretty much only offense and the Stars are pretty much only defense. But I think that the Oilers have the upper hand. They outmatch them everywhere apart from goaltending, and if Draisaitl and McDavid keep up their play from earlier on, and if some other players can contribute with their now recently decent depth, I think that the Oilers can actually win this series in 6 games. The Stars are good, but their star players need to play like they are capable of, or else they won't make it far this year. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And both teams played extremely well during the regular season, but I think that Tampa Bay will be more motivated to prove themselves and will play out of their minds, especially early on during the playoffs. They also have a statistical advantage over the Penguins, are one of, if not the best offensive team, and are better than the Penguins on every part of the ice, so I predict Tampa Bay to win this in 6 games. However, knowing Tampa, this could end up completely wrong. Moving on, the New York Islanders versus the Boston Bruins, and I don't think that this series will be very close. The Bruins were the best team this year, has the best line in hockey, lets in the least goals, is one of the top special teams as well. While the Islanders are more of a bubble team, and sure, this may become another President's Trophy winner to choke in the playoffs, but I can't see this happening again. The Islanders have a weaker team all around, especially on offense, and I don't think they can really compete with the Bruins. I predict Boston in 5 games. The next matchup is Toronto versus Washington. I don't have faith in Toronto, and my head tells me that they will lose for the 4th straight time in round 1, but I think that this year everyone has low expectations for them, and that might actually help them succeed. They have an amazing offensive team and solid goaltending, not to mention that they will be playing on home ice. Washington is great, but lacks reliable goaltending, which might cause them to lose to Toronto in a hard-fought 7-game series. And the last matchup in round 1, the New York Rangers versus the Philadelphia Flyers, probably the closest matchup in round 1, and I think that this series will be a bloodbath, but in the end, I see New York shocking the Flyers in 7 games. Both teams have great depth and great first-liners. The Flyers have better goaltending, but I think that since both teams are so close, the outcome will rely on whether Panarin and Zibanejad can go off in the playoffs, because if they do, it may just help them win. In the second round, I have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Edmonton Oilers, and as much as I want the Oilers to win, this will be an easy win for the Avalanche. They have an insane team all around that the Oilers can't compete with, and their depth will easily shut down the Oilers. And I think that even if McDavid and Draisaitl play out of their minds, it still won't be enough because Edmonton lacks depth and good goaltending. So I predict Colorado to win this in 5 games. Next, the St. Louis Blues versus the Golden Knights. This series will be pretty close. Vegas has the upper hand on offense, while St. Louis has the upper hand on defense and goaltending. And Vegas has a great team that can compete with the Blues, but Fleury will need to play much better to give them a chance at winning. And I think that the Blues will be a stingy team and will play aggressively like last year. That helped them win. And if Binnington plays great like he has in the past, they will beat them in 6 games. The next matchup is the Boston Bruins versus the New York Rangers, and I think that the Bruins will quite easily beat the Rangers unless they choke, which is a possibility. They led the league in almost everything, so they have a clear advantage. The Rangers are extremely underrated and they have great offense and defense, but they lack goaltending, so I predict that the Bruins will dominate the Rangers and win this in an easy 5-game series. For the final matchup in round 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think that this is where Toronto's luck runs out. Both teams are extremely good offensively, but Tampa has the clear advantage on the back end. Toronto doesn't have a solid enough all-around team to make it deep into the playoffs, and I think that Tampa Bay will take them out in a ferocious series, and due to their experience, skill, and need for redemption, they will push over Toronto in 7 games. In the Western Conference Finals, the Avalanche versus the Blues, 2 powerhouses play for a chance at the finals, but I have a gut feeling that this time it will be Colorado that prevails. Obviously, both teams are insane in their own rights, but I think Colorado has exactly what they need to overcome the Blues. They have better offense, they have extremely skilled and young players on both sides of the ice, they have more grit, and they also have solid goaltending. And I think that this series will go to 6 games, but Colorado moves on. St. Louis had their success last year, and I think that this time the faster, younger team will be more successful. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bruins versus the Lightning, and I know I'm choosing the best teams in each conference to get to this point, but these playoffs favor the better teams for once due to reseeding, so I think that they will take advantage of this. Both are evenly matched, but I believe that Tampa Bay will move on. Tampa is the more offensive team, while Boston is better defensively and on special teams. And a major injury could make or break the seasons for both teams, but I think that since the series is so close on paper that it will truly come down to who wants it more. And I think that Tampa does because they've had their core together for a long time but haven't managed to ever win it all. So Tampa will win this in 7 games. In the Stanley Cup Finals, I have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this series will be incredibly close, with both teams having great offense, defense, and goaltending, albeit Tampa Bay has a slight advantage, especially on goaltending. In 7 games, I predict that the Colorado Avalanche will win the Stanley Cup over Tampa Bay. Now, you heard it first from me. Colorado will win the Stanley Cup in 2020. And my head tells me that Tampa Bay will win, but I have a gut feeling that this is Colorado's year. I may be wrong, but if you think I'm crazy, let me show you a clip of my predictions last year.
You heard that right. The St. Louis Blues are your Stanley Cup champions of 2019, shocking the hockey world.
I believe that Colorado has exactly what it takes to win. They were so good both at home and on the road. McKinnon played out of his mind. They had one of the best first lines in hockey. They have an amazing young talent up front and on defense. They have a very gritty team and have reliable goaltending. And I think that if Grubauer or Francouz have an extremely good playoffs and their core continues to play like they did in the regular season, I think that their speed and skill will prevail and bring Colorado its 3rd Stanley Cup. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me. Now, these are extremely hard to predict, so we'll see if I'm correct for the 2nd year in a row. So make sure to leave a like and ask me some questions for my Q&A if you haven't, and I'll see you guys later.